Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We are here to talk about how do we clean up Confluence or declutter it, depending on how you want to look at it. I need to quickly set this up so we can get my friends from LinkedIn in here, or I guess bringing order to our chaos is what I've been calling this. But I'll encourage you all to take just a minute and take a look. I'm going to drop a little quick question in the chat. What I'm looking for here, this one, that one. Whee! And there's a quick little poll to get us used to using these. Just have you been in a session with me before? And while y'all consider this a very deep, ponderous question, I need to get LinkedIn set up. All right, LinkedIn should be joining us soon. Arslan, welcome, my friend. Ooh, you're in the data center area. What is that like? I assume you mean District of Columbia. So far, most of us returning. Amazing. Well, I'm glad you all decided to come learn with me again. I do a lot of these, so it's always good to see folks come in for a repeat. And I think we're all set on LinkedIn. Kelvin, glad you're here from New Zealand. I picked this time slot because typically I do these early in the morning, like 6 or 7 a.m. Pacific Standard, GMT -8. And I wanted to get something for the folks who are in Oceania going, because that time zone for me doesn't really line up with the folks who live in Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, those areas of the world. The Godfather is from SoCal. Wasn't The Godfather in New York? At least the character. But welcome to Godfather. I'm glad you're here. Arslan, every once in a while I get a good joke. I'm glad folks are here to experience it. So we are going to get started learning how to declutter Confluence or organize Confluence. This is a very near and dear to my heart discussion, because Confluence, as I think we all know, gets very, what's the word I'm looking for here? Cluttered over time. And we are going to jump on in. I'm going to go back and forth between some slides, and then I'm going to share a hands-on kind of guided tour of Confluence as I perform this process on an old space that I have. So we're going to see both. So just a quick introduction. My career has been in IT, mainly in information technology systems. So I started on the help desk, and then I quickly moved to implementing systems. And one of the first things I did when I joined a project team was document stuff. And this was mostly how-to. How does the system work? Why do we use it this way? And I realized that unless we take a lot of time, effort, and energy to keep that stuff organized, it very quickly becomes unorganized. And this meant that all the work that I put into ensuring that things were cleaned up and did make sense kind of went out the window. Because very quickly, folks would not be able to find information. They wouldn't be able to find the stuff that I want them to see. So I began using Confluence about 13 years ago. Been in there ever since. I was forced into it. It's just what the company had. And a fun fact, I haven't been to Australia or New Zealand yet. I'm hoping to get there one day. If anyone wants to bring me out to talk to the conference or do something, I would love to accept that invite. Some interaction. Please use the chat, whether you're commenting in LinkedIn or using the YouTube chat. Please drop and your this comments, meant that all the work that I put questions, drop your ideas. This is the main way we're going to interact. I will also put polls in YouTube, just looking for feedback and kind of announce those and talk through them. But please put in your questions or what you want me to dig into more. Melanie, welcome from Melbourne, Australia, and not Florida. I do this professionally, though. I make content. I make learning courses. So I will talk from time to time around how you can support me doing that. The easiest way, if you like this, hit the like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel. All my recordings are available there. I do also have memberships. So I have some content that is gated behind a membership. There's a very easy level of $3 US a month. One way to support me, you get early access to stuff. But the simplest way, just hit the like button. It's a thumbs up, or hit the thumbs up in LinkedIn, just to let other people know this is useful. So an agenda. We're going to start with just some ideas and a discussion around like why are we improving a space? Why should we care? And this is important because the underlying why will help drive what we want to do. And then we get more into interesting topics like, okay, what are the common challenges that we all run into trying to do this? How do we analyze it? What tools do we have to make this analysis and improvement easier or better or faster or stronger? And then we'll actually talk about, the look and the feel. What do we want things to look like? And how do we build a structure? Now, in between this, we'll be going back and forth between some slides and then hands-on. So I'll show you in a cloud premium instance what this all looks like. There are a few tools I'm going to use that are not available in free or standard. I'll do my best to call those out. But if you have questions, hey, Rob, is this available in some tier? Drop it right in the chat. I'll be happy to answer it. All right, and it looks like more than half of us have been in a session with me before. Thank you all for coming back. And for the folks who haven't joined me, welcome to the stream. So we're going to use a scenario. We've just got a space that's in a bad spot. This is a space I've had, I want to say, for over a year. I use it for online demos, so it's kind of intentionally a bit of a train wreck. But it's a good example of I never planned it out. I just put stuff in there, and eventually I looked at it and I said, ooh, I might just need to archive the whole thing. This is reflective, though, of things that I have seen in actual organizations I have worked in, and I imagine organizations you all have worked in. I'm going to drop a quick poll, and folks on LinkedIn, you can answer as well in the comments. But how frequently do you review your spaces? And what I mean by this is how often do you take a critical eye to look at them and figure out how do we improve it, or what can we do to change it? And there's no real wrong answer, but I'm just curious, and if there's something outside of monthly, yearly, never, or I should be doing that, drop a comment. Now, there's a lot of challenges our spaces face. We can all acknowledge that over time, data gets stale. It'll get outdated. Let's think about even Atlassian itself. It publishes new updates all the time. And so that how-to article I wrote on how to use the content manager is going to be wrong eventually. There'll be missing content. To the best of our ability, we'll build out our space, and we'll have forgotten a step someone needs for onboarding. Or we'll have skipped over some API documentation. And I'm drawing on common examples that I've done. We'll also get low engagement. Maybe a lot of people aren't really using the content. We're expecting every new hire goes to this one area, and they don't. Why not? What's going on? There can be no page owner. This is an individual who is generally the person who makes the page, but they're expected to maintain and update it. And if that person leaves the organization, or if they're just unaware that they should be doing something, then the content gets stale. We'll also end up with content that just isn't used. So at some point, some percentage of what we have in there just is never looked at. And this just means it's cluttering things up. I'd like to think of Confluence as think of like a library. And imagine if your library was just full of old copies of books that no one read. It would be hard to find the book you wanted. These are not the only challenges, though. I'm curious if folks in chat have any others, or if you can expand on any of these with your own personal experience. But these are just some that came top of mind, and things that I see frequently, both in myself as I build Confluence, and also in other individuals and groups as I work with them to help them improve how they operate. But again, it's going to get stale. That is just a fact of creating a collaborative platform and creating knowledge. I debated if I should use the cursive because it's kind of hard to read. Just a reminder that it's very easy for us as the people performing these audits or these updates to feel like it's just us. It's easy for me to think, oh, it's just going to be me going in and fixing Confluence. Remember that you have a team, though. And this is something I struggle and I work on. But I don't have to be the only person who goes out there and figures out what needs to change, what should be updated, making new content. Tap into your teams. Ask for volunteers. Explain why it's important. I'll explain some of those challenges as we go. But just remember, it's not just up to you to make this better. So that kind of rolls us into some challenges. There's three main challenges I think of when I think of this. One is getting buy-in. Think about Confluence, right? It's probably not the top of mind for the executives at your organization. Or rather, I would be surprised if your executives are constantly asking you what's going on with Confluence, how do we improve it? So convincing people that this is something we should work on can be hard. So that covers buy-in. We'll dig more into these in future slides. Another one we've got is just resourcing. Let's say everyone agrees, yes, Noreen, we should go fix Confluence. Well, then you need an analyst to come help you, or you need someone to write new content, or you need your own time. So even if you can get over the hurdle of generating a buy-in, and yes, we want to do this, you might run smack dab into another hurdle. Who's going to do it? Or if we have to pay for this, how are we going to get funding? And then we have consistency. One trap or one mistake that a lot of people like myself make is I'll do this process and then I won't do it again. Cleaning up my office is one example of this type of maintenance. I'll do it every once in a while, and then quickly things fall apart again. So being consistent with how we apply this. And that's why I asked in the question, how frequently do you review spaces? It's not, have you ever done it once? It's how regularly do you perform this thing? And this, like every other piece of maintenance, should be something we schedule and should just become part of the day. Arslan is saying a challenge in data center, bulk access to restricted pages to a new admin. So even some simple things like ensuring as people join they have appropriate access. If we can't do that, this can result in drift, because now all of a sudden this new hire, Rob, can't get in. Buy-in is just convincing others of the need. Typically, when I want to embark on something like this, I have to go convince my manager, a vice president, someone to say, I want to take 30% of my time, 10% of my time, 1 hour a week to go improve this. And this can be a hard challenge to overcome. Again, because folks have competing priorities. My time may better be spent doing something else. So I need to think through, how can I sell this in? How can I convince everyone? And as we dig into Confluence, I'll talk about some of the tools that can give us numbers and metrics. But, we need to tell a story. We need to point at a report and say, look, after this date, we see a huge drop-off in use, or our new hires are constantly frustrated they can't find things, and we get a low score. We can kind of sell it in by saying this improves how the team operates. This improves how we handle new hires. This improves how our engineers engineer and they write code. So we can take what we learn through this process of pulling apart the space and then use that as fuel for an argument we should actually go fix this. But it sometimes does begin with just sitting down and pulling things apart to see what's in it. And then resourcing is the next challenge, right? It's the time, the money, the people necessary to do this. In rare instances, do I actually get, all the time I think like I want. Typically when I'm doing this, I am picking on a space or even just a series of pages that has high visibility or that, feels like it has high value. So I'm being very strategic. I'm not just picking my own personal space. I'm finding the ones that I think people use a lot or that have high visibility in the organization. I'll use onboarding as an example quite a bit. My background's working with HR teams, but I also think, hey, everyone who's hired in looks at this stuff. It should be spot on. It should be updated and cleaned and polished. That makes it easier for me to get time and money and people to help me fix it. So in addition to thinking through buy-in, I'm also considering what are we going to pick on or what area will we improve, because that makes it easier to get the resourcing. But keep in mind, there's an opportunity cost. Everyone might agree, yes, we need to fix onboarding, but they also might then say, we've got a bigger problem over here we need you to work on. This one I always tie back to what's in it for the organization. Again, using onboarding, new hire scores have been consistently low. Their biggest complaint is they don't know how to file an IT ticket. I have a project to go fix that by improving this Confluence space. So if you can tie what you want to do directly to that business impact, this becomes much easier to sell in or to get the support for. And then there's consistency. Arslan's reading my mind. Keeping people invested in the need to update this, having regular reviews and updating things makes this a habit. The first time you do one of these, it's going to seem like a big thing. It's going to feel like it's challenging and huge because it can be. There can be a lot of stuff you have to do. If you build this into your regular cadence, every month you review 3 spaces to make sure they're up to date, and every year you review the top 10, that will make it easier to update, but also ensure that over time, the consistency of the space stays high. What I mean by that is over time, you'll start to see better quality stuff because you're constantly reviewing and updating things. All right, welcome, Kaithra. This is our signal to teleport into Confluence. That was the first set of slides. We're going to go into Confluence Cloud Premium, and I'm going to show you some of the tools or show you the space that's a bit of a train wreck and kind of explain how it got there. And also a quick tea break for me and a reminder, if you like this, hit the like button, whether that's in YouTube or LinkedIn. And if you're considering supporting the channel, Kythra is one of my valued members. Link in the bottom left to become a channel member. You get early access to a lot of things. Whoops. This is Confluence Cloud Premium, and here I have a list of my spaces. And I'm going to open up this Heen text space. And I always hate looking in here, but if I zoom in on just the hierarchy, we're going to see it's just a big pile of stuff. Oh no, there's even more. I haven't looked in here in a while, honestly, but this is not uncommon. This is very common for spaces that maybe haven't been updated recently, or maybe spaces that someone just finds and starts building. So this can be the symptom of a greater process that's missing. So as I'm performing my analysis or as I'm looking at spaces, I'm also going to keep in the back of my mind, how am I going to identify or improve these? Or what else can I think about that got me here? Because when I think of uncluttering the space, I'm not just uncluttering the space, I'm on the lookout for things that I can do to improve things overall. How do I help ensure other spaces don't suffer in the same way? And part of that can be, I need to train people on how to add content properly. So we're also going to keep an eye out for that. In this example, one of the things I see is not many parent-child pages, and I see a lot of drafts. So one of my takeaways from this particular space might be to train people on what's a parent-child. Did you know you can just click and drag and put this under another page? And then I'll also talk to them about drafts. Hey, did you know if you write a page and you don't publish it, it just sits there forever and no one ever sees it? People may not. And so we can also see some of the improvements we can make with our training, with our process, with our team members, right from here, just based on what we look at and what we're able to pull out of our analysis. So this is one of the first things I'm looking at. Now, it is possible to clean up a space without being a space admin. There will be some hurdles we'll run into, though. We won't have access to the content manager or analytics. If you're not a space admin, though, you can still have a good positive impact on this. Where you should focus is just on cleaning up the hierarchy and then on the process around it. So talking to other people, building that buy-in, and working with your space admin to get the support and help in terms of the features. So even if you don't have access to all the fun tools I'm going to show you in the next section, you can still have a good positive impact on the space just by keeping in mind some basic principles. One thing I'm looking at is how easy is it to navigate just by clicking around? Can I come in here and browse and easily find things? So that's one thing I look for. This is not easy to browse. I have to keep scrolling to get to the bottom. And not that a lot of content is bad, but a lot of disorganized content is bad. A lot of untitled docs. So one takeaway as an individual, as a non-admin I might have is, let's go name these things, or even I might just go name them. Another thing that I'm on the lookout for when I'm just browsing and examining a space is, is this useful to me as the reader? This is a great page that might not be very useful. It seems to list the entire space, and it's called company policies. I don't think these are all policies. So I might make a note to myself to dig into this more deeply, or I might even come in here and edit this page and just see what it's doing. Okay, it says policy list, and then it just lists the page tree. So this is a signal to me that maybe I should go work on this. Now, without being a space admin, I can also add labels to this page. And so this is one way I keep track of things I want to work on. If you go down to the bottom, you can click Add Label. And I might just add a label called Follow-Up. Now, as long as you can edit the page, you can add the label. So in most cases, you should be able to do this. Another sneaky way to get around this is you can watch the page, watch this content, or even it and all of its children. Because if you can view the page, you can watch it. So I'm just giving you some ideas. Even if you aren't the admin, you can still go in and keep track of things you want to go improve, or even get a list of things you want to go improve later. If I add those labels, I can now go into my search and just look for labels and look for that label and then give this list to someone. Hey, space admin, I've identified this list of pages that I want to go update. Can you help me with that? Hey, manager, here's a list of pages that are underperforming. I want to go in and dig them. Kythra's pointing out vague and ambiguous titles are a hurdle. So that's something else I can see without being an admin with no special access. And it's something that I want to keep an eye on. There's a lot in here. Again, I've called off the untitled. Untitled, there's like 3 of them right here. And how does that impact the use of the space? So this is just like a first layer of analysis, looking through it to identify things I might want to improve. And I'll be keeping a list on a piece of paper, on a separate Confluence page, on a notebook somewhere. So I now have something I can dig into. So that analysis is important. It is important to take time to dig in and understand what exists in Confluence, because some of this will be good stuff. But we want to understand what's in there. Things like how much is it being used? And the screenshot we see here is from something called the Content Manager. I'll show you this in a moment, available to space admins. Or what's missing. As I'm looking through the space, I want to keep an eye on, hey, I'm expecting to see a policy on vacation information. What happened to that? Or who owns this thing? Why does Rob own all this content? In this case, it's my space. But is that appropriate? Should we go change that? Or is there no owner? Do I have to go correct that? So all questions I'm constantly asking myself to improve how the space operates. Now, the good news is we have a lot of tools. So far, all I've spoken about was you look at the space and you can move around the space, and that's great. So our eyes are a great set of tools. Rodney, welcome, my friend. We, as space admins, though, get a couple other features. One is the Content Manager, and we'll dig into this and I'll walk you through the use of this tool. I love that this exists now. Before this, it was almost impossible to understand when a page was last active, when it was last viewed or updated, or how many views they had. So this gives me a one screen I go to see across the space how much have things been looked at. I also get an analytics tool. Now the analytics tool can be turned off by our app admin. So it's possible, but hopefully unlikely, that you as a space admin don't see this. But the analytics tool gives us raw data. And this analytics tool is really important to building that buy-in. I can get a list and say, here are all the pages in this space that have never been viewed or haven't been updated in 3 months. Or here are the top 10 pages by view count. See how the first 3 have 100,000 views each and the rest don't have any? So these 2 tools give me objective data I can use to go make informed decisions. The Content Manager also allows me to do things like archive content from one place. So when I'm ready, I can start just archiving things off, just ticking boxes and getting rid of them. I'm going to drop a quick question in the polls. Just have you used the Content Manager? And basically asking, have you used it regularly, once or twice, not at all, or some other answer, and drop a comment. Now, we also have some other tools that are less analytical and more about the planning and re-architecting. Prior to using whiteboards or databases, I would use something like a Lucidchart, a Draw.io, a Miro, a Visio to map out what I want the space to look like. This is an important step when I build out a space. I'll draw out what is a diagram. Yeah, Arslan, I'm sorry, it is a cloud feature. Womp womp. Hopefully by 2029, though, you will be in cloud, my friend, and you'll have access to it. That is a reference to data center. They recently announced it's having an end of life in 2029. So groups that are on data center are hopefully making a decision now on if they're going to stay and when they'll make the jump into cloud. Now we have 2 content types that we can use within Confluence to help us figure out what should we do. Whiteboards are important because they allow us to map out what do we want the end state to look like. When I first make a space, I will do this as well. I'll draw out what should go in here. What is the structure? What's the homepage? What are all the children? This then gives me a blueprint to follow when I add new content. It makes it easier for new editors to go in and figure out where does their page go. For a re-architecture or uncluttering things, this also helps me figure out where does everything go after we unclutter it. Databases also help because I can easily get a list of every piece of content in the space and then do things like assign a status. Where are we in the review? We want to keep it, archive it, still has to be edited, etc. And we can also do things like put an assignee on it. So think of it as like a lightweight project tracker. I don't have to go into Jira and build out a bunch of work items that list all these things. I can just pop open a database, automatically pull in all the content in a space, and then start working on it from there. Prior to databases, I would do this in a spreadsheet, which does work. There's nothing wrong with that. But I find having this in Confluence is easier, less tools for me to bounce back and forth into, and also keeps it in context. Because these will live as content in Confluence. And that means in 3 months, I can go look at it and say, hey, this is what the structure was planned out to be, what actually happened. Or hey, this is the database we pulled 6 months ago. Is this trending in the direction we want? So I've mentioned planning this structure, and this is important because it will help guide us when we start moving things around. It is very, very easy to go straight to, hey, let's start adding, removing, deleting content. This can also get messy. If you have a lot of people involved, they might be moving things to the wrong spot. You may realize halfway through, actually, page 2 should be under page 1, not under the home page, and then you have to go rebuild things. So here, a little bit of planning can be very helpful, and planning visually can be very helpful, just because you'll be able to see and point at and move around where things should go. So ideally, we're all doing this, ideally, when we plan out a space. Typically, I only do this for the more highly visible ones. Again, onboarding for the whole company. Important project documentation for a new launch, things like that, because it does take time. And that's where we need to make a decision. Where do we want to invest our time? Whew. All right. Quick tea break for Rob, about halfway through. Amazing. We're going to go into Confluence Cloud Premium and use those tools to analyze that space just to see how it's being used. Please keep in mind, this is a demo instance. I don't expect there to be a lot of activity. So you might have to use your imagination with me a little bit, at least in terms of the engagement numbers, because I imagine they'll be fairly low. Here we are in Confluence Cloud Premium. And also a reminder to folks, if you like this content, hit the like button. You'll see it floating around. And also check out my learning courses over at learn.heen.tech. I recently just published my learning courses, a mini Confluence certification, highly unofficial, but just some more learning opportunities. There's also a lot of stuff on Confluence in general, as well as all the credentials and certifications and stuff. So here I am in my space. I've done my visual look through, and I've kind of got some ideas on what I want to do. But now I'll go into Content Manager, which is under Space Tools. Also, if I open up Space Settings, I'll see it up here on the left. And so this is one tool I use on a very regular basis. If not weekly, at least monthly in most of the bigger spaces, because it shows me really useful stuff. One was something last active. And I can click on this, and it's saying, okay, only within the past year. So I've got some content in here. All of these NAs. This is suggesting that this content hasn't been viewed in over a year. So what I can do then is click on it, and I can see it, and I can do things like go look at it. I can view the ownership, or try and dig in more to understand maybe when was it created. So right away I'm getting some ideas on, hey, a lot of this stuff, maybe I could get rid of. Next, I'm taking a look at views. And that's just counting how many times has it been open. Arslan, my friend, one of me is more than enough. Again, this is a demo box, so all of this should be me. But I'm using the view count just to get an idea of, hey, are people actually coming here? Sure, someone came to the linked pages test 4 days ago, but it's only got 6 page views in a year. Is it truly that useful? Could I move it somewhere else? Could I archive it? Could I update it? Should I rename it? Should I take action based on these numbers? So at this point, I'm just kind of browsing. I'm looking through here to figure out what's going on. I do have some additional columns I can turn on or off. The last updated and created columns are very, very useful. Let me get rid of my sidebar. Yeah, last updated 1 year ago. 9 months. 10 months. Ooh. 20 days. That one's relatively recent. But this is, again, giving me a way to make an informed decision over what needs to happen. Once I make decisions, and we'll get to that in a moment, it's as simple as ticking boxes to archive or delete or change a status. So this tool lets me take bulk actions. There are marketplace apps that do similar things. So if you're selling data center, there might be marketplace apps that can perform a similar function. But again, this is premium and enterprise cloud. Next, I've got my analytics. And this helps me tell a better story. Again, let's pretend this is an onboarding space and my HR team is concerned new hires aren't using it. I can see a couple spikes in views, but then this like flat line. I go, ooh, okay. Not many updates, that's the green line. And not many created, that's the purple line. So depending on my space, I can look at this and then try to interpret, okay, what's going on with this? Why did I see a spike here? Oh, that was the last time we had a big push to update the space. That makes sense. Or that was our last onboarding class. I also get information though, like the most popular content. And we can see in this case, it actually drops off 35, 27, 7. So this is telling me right here, hey, you've got 2 pieces of content that people use quite a bit, and then the rest of it, not so much. So again, it's showing me areas that, hey, I can go improve it by digging into company policies, status info, etc. This is an overview, and I can change it a little bit. I can do things like all-time status. And I can see generally this is falling off a cliff. It's trending down and right. So generally this suggests, hey, I need to do something to change this. We can also focus, this does only focus on pages, live docs, and blogs right now. So that is an important call out. Princess Shorty, no worries. I'm glad you're here. This is being recorded on both LinkedIn and YouTube. So if you need to come back later, you can come back to the same link wherever you're accessing this and you'll get in. I can also see content. This for me is more useful, and this is also where we can extract to a CSV. So if you really, really, really want to do some stuff in a spreadsheet, you can pull this down and manipulate it in a Google Sheet, etc. Here, we can sort by these columns. So I can say, what was the oldest last modified date? Okay, 2 years ago. So copy test probably should be examined, or even the last viewed date. I'll click on it twice. And I've got pages that haven't been looked at, not updated. They haven't been looked at in 6 months. Look at this. Everything from here up hasn't even been viewed in the past 2 months. So since summer or winter, depending on where you are. So this page is very, very useful. Again, I have some filters. I can change the time frames. But I can also see things like comments. I can see how many unique users viewed it. In this case, it's all going to be 1 because it's just me. But these are all numbers that help me. If I see, the last view count might be recent but hasn't been modified in a while, maybe that's good perennial stuff. The history of our company, that shouldn't really change. But if I see a lot of updates and not a lot of views, maybe there's a challenge with the content, or it's not named well, or it's in a bad spot. So I can use this information to start making an informed decision and identify what maybe needs updating. Again, historically, I would do that in a CSV. Now, though, I'll show you how to do this in a database. I like having it in one spot. And last, I can see the users. So here I can see who's actually using it. This is useful because it helps me identify like a super user or a champion, or just who I should go talk to about what's going on in the space. As a space admin, I might not know everything that's going on, but I might know enough to go talk to Rob and say, hey, you seem to be involved in what's going on here. Emily H. is pointing out this doesn't reflect Rovo use. So that is one important thing to keep in mind. Rovo, also cloud only, doesn't show up in a lot of reporting yet, doesn't have a lot of like analytical analysis. Wow, that's a dumb way to say that. It doesn't show up in a lot of analytics as of right now. So keep in mind this 91 views is this human, Robert Heen, viewing 91 pieces of content. This is not the human Robert Heen using Rovo to find 91 pieces of content. Also, Emily, it's good to see you again, my friend. I feel like it's been a while. We have cookies, unless you're in England, then they're called biscuits. Sorry, I had to try that. So these are some of our analytical tools. Again, that content manager and analytics. There are other marketplace apps and add-ons that help provide a similar type of information, but in cloud, these are kind of out of the box. So I'm going to go back into this space, and we're going to start our brainstorming of what this should look like. Most of the content in here is just throwaway nonsense, I'll be honest, but I'm going to make a new whiteboard. And these are available in all flavors of cloud. If you're not in cloud, if you're in data center or don't use whiteboards, I recommend any kind of whiteboarding or just draw it on a piece of paper to visually show you, okay, here is the homepage of the space. This will be the top page. And then maybe I'll add in, my first level, the children of that homepage. And I can use these little lines to visually show, here's the relation. The homepage goes to these top level. And these top level include things like, let me zoom in a bit, documentation, first 3 months. I'm just making up HR type examples. Get help. And then under that, I could keep building this out. Now, the goal isn't to map out every individual page. In some cases, like under get help, I'll have multiple pages under it that are all similar. So I might use different shapes. For example, the right parallelogram might represent multiple pages that are all similar. So I might call these like enter help desk tickets. So the goal here isn't to map out every single individual page that should be in here. The goal here is to give me guidance so when I do start moving things around over here in the hierarchy, I generally know where they go. Because even in this example, I've got maybe, call it 60 pieces of content. This is pretty small. I'll want this guidance to let me know, hey, if it's an if it's a help desk page for content, put it under get help. If it's documentation, put it under documentation, etc. An advantage of doing this in a Confluence whiteboard is also you can share this with your team. Because whiteboards are just built into Confluence, you can share this and it lives in Confluence with everything else. So having it in context is also a good benefit of this. Without Confluence whiteboards, I've used tools like Lucidchart and just shared it from there. So that's using a whiteboard, and I would keep building this out and then bouncing this idea off of people. There are some fun tricks you can do as well. For example, you can just grab links to a Confluence page and just paste it in. So once you get to a point where you know existing content should go in a certain spot, you can just start grabbing the hyperlinks and pasting them into your whiteboard to visually show where they go. If there's any programmers out there, I would love for a tool that converts my diagram into an actual content hierarchy. That doesn't exist yet, but this does let me map out what's going on. So that's how I plan out what do I want the structure to look like ideally. Next, I'm going to just see what do I have currently. So I'm going to make another database. We're going to make a new database. Again, this is a cloud tool. You could also do this in a spreadsheet. So get a list of all the pages. I'll give it some kind of name because I'm awful at naming things. Keen Tech Refresh. And then up here on the right, I've got an import button. I'll just click Confluence. And then I need to find the content I want to pull in. So I want the, what was it, the Heen Tech space? Bloop. Does it not? Doesn't have space. Space, there we go. Title. So now I would just start searching or filtering down by when do I want to pull things in. Maybe I only want to pull in really stale content. Stuff I know that is from before this year. Or maybe just the early parts of this year. In this example, all of January. I can then just click Insert, and it's going to pull all of those pieces of content in as objects into my database. This replaces me having to go open up a spreadsheet and share that around. The other thing this does is I can just easily add a column and maybe have an assignee. So who should be working on this particular piece of content? I might also come in here and add in a tag, which I could use as a status. Like, what is the status of the review? So I might have a pending, an in review, pending approval. I'm making up ideas. Done. And then as my team moves through this, they can go through and just easily update. This gives me, as the person pushing for this, one spot I can go. I'm going to drop another quick poll. Have you used Confluence databases? The content type, not the thing that supports Confluence. I've used this successfully to go through and say, all right, we've got this HR policies. Emily H., I'm going to assign that to you. Well, in this case, you're Robert Heen. I'm sorry. I've got a Confluence plus Jira. Andrew, you're going to get that one. Arslan, you would get the next 3. This lets me more easily track who's accountable and responsible for fixing things. And then also lets them go and updates it on their own. Again, we're not alone in trying to declutter Confluence. It can feel like it, just because it is a very big thing. And most of the time, we might be the only one who thinks it's valuable. But if we can get a team working in here, wrong H. This makes your life a lot easier. This allows you to assign off, say, all the policy documents just to a policy expert. Or it allows you to quickly figure out, hey, Andrew's on vacation, I need to reassign these things. This, again, for me works. I can see some great comments in here. Kythra saying Confluence databases are interesting. Emily H saying they don't have a good version history. Correcto. They do actually have a version history now. Huh. Thank you for mentioning that, Emily H. I did not know there even was a version history. Oh no. Now, there is some debate over when and how to use a database. It is a relatively new feature in cloud, so Emily's comment here kind of points at that. In some cases, in a really big Confluence space redesign, I might use Jira because I want that capability. In a smaller one, I might settle for a database, or maybe just write it down on a whiteboard behind me. Kythra, are they exportable? Yes. I've got CSV, HTML, and PDF. But this is one tool we have if we're in cloud that lets us easily go through and manage this. Now, again, this will not allow us to rearrange pages. So I can't from here change the parent of Confluence plus Jira. I can't from here make Jira integration a child of Confluence plus Jira. This is just visually showing me, what's available and maybe where should it go. But it's a nice built-in tool that helps me figure out what is in the space and how can I move it around. All right. I lied. I don't have any more slides. Perfect. So we'll do this work. We'll figure out what should go where. We've got our wonderful diagram describing what the ideal setup is. Then we've got a list of what should we take in or out of the space. Moving it around is honestly pretty straightforward once you understand what needs to happen. And this is why we do a lot of planning. We go and figure out what should it look like. One other thing you do want to take into account, though, is what is missing. As you're analyzing your content, keep an eye out for, hey, we don't have a policy about vacation, or hey, we don't have a link to this other space, or a good definition of what the team does, whatever it is. So that is something else I'll add to this collection of content, whether it's a database or a spreadsheet, and I'll figure out who should go make it. Maybe Arslan is an expert in it, and I task them as the assignee to go build this new content. So keep an eye out for that as well. It's not just about cleaning up what already exists. It's about improving and adding to what's already in there. You can take that a step further and also examine the actual content and then assign that to a new writer or new editor to go fix. For example, if I feel this human resources space needs updating, I might assign it to Kythra because I know they're an expert in this area and say, hey, by December 14th, can you please update this to match our most recent policies? So as I'm going through this, it's not just where do things go, it's also how do I improve it? And depending on how much time, effort, and energy I have to do that, or how much resources I've been given, I'll go deeper into that. Arslan, it would. Thank you for volunteering to create that for us. I'm looking forward to seeing what you make. This is on my wish list, a tool that I can just visually describe. Say I have a whiteboard diagram. I would love a button that I push that just changes the hierarchy. Or I would love a button that I push that spits out a whiteboard that displays all the content under its parent. Because that will make this type of analysis a lot easier. Or imagine a whiteboard that I could filter and say, hey, gray out all the things that haven't been viewed in 3 months. Oh, that would be so cool. I'm nerding out on re-architecting content. I never thought I would say that. Yep, generate whiteboard with the structure. Yes. Arslan, as I'm describing a database, you are correct, my friend. This is similar to a Jira Service Management queue. It's a list of things that we want to go analyze or perform or do. I am just recording it in a database and not in Jira to keep things a bit simpler. To Emily H's point, though, it might be better to use Jira or something else to track it. I was just thinking through, how do I keep this all in Confluence here? And Kythra's yelling at me for some reason. All right. Eventually, we'll figure out what the new parent should be. And in this database, we could just have, excuse me, a page and a link. What is the new parent? So I could link it in, or I could have a text field that does it. Excuse me just a minute. I missed you, Emily. Emily and Kythra are common, frequent, what do I want to call them, hecklers on the channel. I'm glad that they're here. Eventually, though, we'll figure out where should things go. What is the new parent? What new content needs to be added? And then we're going to go back into our content manager. And this is where we're going to get rid of stuff that we don't want anymore. So I go through and I just bulk archive. I click on all the things. I'm just picking random examples here. Yeah, and then I'll archive. And I'll give them all this note that says something like, you know, declutter project of 2025. So I typically don't delete stuff unless I know for sure we can get rid of it. Archiving puts it in the archive. Think of it like the back room somewhere. We can bring it back if we need it. But I can see here it was part of the declutter project of 2025. Great. And alternatively, I might delete things if I absolutely want to get rid of them. Deletion can be permanent. That's the thing to be aware of. Annoyingly, from here, I cannot change the hierarchy. I can't click and drag or move the parent or child. I have a separate tool entirely for that under content called reorder. And this kind of drives me nuts, but this is the content hierarchy. And from here, I can just click and drag. So at this point, I would have up on another monitor. I would be going back and forth between that whiteboard I made and this to make this match my plan. So this is kind of the last step that I do after we've pruned out all the old stuff and identified what can be removed and what should be added. I'll go in here and I'll move all of these things around to match my ideal state. This is also the easiest step, and this is also the step most people immediately think of when they think, oh, I'm going to go change Confluence. We've spent most of this session talking about how do we plan this out? How do we analyze what's in there? It will take you all of 5 minutes to rearrange things once you know where they should go. Please take a lot of time to figure out what that ideal state is, though. All right, folks, questions? We got Arslan, Emily, and Kythra in chat. I know there's like 25 more people in here. Please let me know what questions or concerns you have, or if there's particular things, you know, scenarios you want me to take a look at. I'll keep talking for another 5 or 6 minutes before I go to my final slide. But if you have specifics you want me to look at, please tell me so I can do that. Now we can also zoom this up a layer, and everything I've done so far has been as a non-admin, just some random person looking at the structure, a space admin, access to content manager. Now we're going to go up to the app admin. So this access, not many people have. This allows me to dig into the entire Confluence app. And I'm going to draw another quick poll question. Basically, are you an app admin? The app admin has instance-wide access. So when we think of improving Confluence, this is something else. If I am this person, I can go in and I can see analytics across the entire instance. I can also see searches. And so this is something space admins don't get. I can go in and see what are people searching for in the instance. And this can help improve what's going on. All right, Arslan's saying, sustaining a cluttered space is a real challenge. Yes. Would love to hear your thoughts on the change management aspect. This is a great point. It's one thing to do this one-time cleanup and get a space into a better spot. I was going to say get a space into a better space. But it's really just good for a point in time. It's like a snapshot. As of November 17th, it looks good. It's like tomorrow, though, it's already out of date. This is where it's important to work with your team or even just take time on your own calendar. I schedule out every 3 months review critical spaces. I also, on particular pieces of content, let's pretend that this HR page is considered incredibly important. I might add a label here and just add a quarterly label. Quarterly. There we go. And then I have a calendar reminder that will bring this up. And I go look at it. Emily H's similar idea uses automations. I also want to shout out, I have a Discord server if folks aren't in it. It's a place where folks like Kythra, Emily, myself, other people go and chat and share ideas, including breakdowns of automations, things I can't do live easily. But I'll share some other ideas in there. You can have automations that help. Automations can do things like identify pages that might be missing an owner, I believe. So there are a lot of options when we go into our automations. Again, some of this might be in cloud, Arslan. I apologize for that, but there are data center ones you can have as well. Here's one that updates page owners if there's a deactivated account, for example. And so this can just be running once a month to go help things. But it is a discipline. Any active maintenance is something we just have to do. Brushing our teeth, going to the doctor, cleaning up our Confluence. I'm not saying these are all equal in our lives, but they're things that, if we want a good Confluence space or instance, require us to regularly go in and update. Kelvin, great question. Can the database identify content with no owner? The content owner is this individual here. Now, the space admin and the owner can change this. So if I am the owner, I could make this someone else, or if I'm the space admin. I'm going to go back. Where did my database go? Uh-oh. Here it is. I think I want to go to Page and Live Doc, Details. I want the owned by. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm saying for the page in the page link column, give me the owner. In this instance, they're all active, so I won't see any inactive ones, but I believe this would show, Robert Heen parentheses inactive, and this would help me identify those. My analytics tool, if I go up into my space settings, will also help me call out pages, because right now I think only pages get an owner. I can see content without owners. Oh, where'd you go? Where's under mission control? It's in here somewhere, I promise. Inactive docs. Pages without active owners. So I get this list here under mission control. All right, folks. I have one more slide. I lied when I said there'd be no more slides. But what's next? There's a lot of discussion around maintenance here. So go get hands-on. Pick a space you want to go try to update and improve, and go try to update and improve it and see what works for you. I've shown you some tools that can work and be helpful. I tried to keep it all in Confluence Cloud, but you might use databases, Lucidchart, a whiteboard behind you, spreadsheets, whatever works. It's not the tool that does it. It's our approach to this process of every so often going in, quarterly, monthly, yearly, and critically asking ourselves, is this serving us or is it just getting in the way? And if it's not serving you, see how you can improve it. So go get hands-on, go explore it. Check out the Atlassian community. I am in there very frequently, especially on the Confluence pages. I'll drop a link to this in the chat. If you're not a member, you can get a free membership. You just need an email. But there are multiple discussion groups around different things. I'm very active in the Confluence user group, but there are thousands of other people that aren't Rob in here that can help you out. a great place to go for help. My Discord server, just link that in the chat, is also a great place for live chat. I'll drop a link to this particular community group. Got to share that with my friends over in LinkedIn. And then, of course, check out learn.heen.tech for training. I have a lot of courses in here. A brand new free one for a Confluence mini certification, and this is real size. It's the size of a business card because it's a mini certification. It is highly unofficial, but I put it together just for some fun. It's also going to show up on YouTube, but plenty of other learning opportunities in here. Please reach out if you have any kind of economic challenge. I'll be happy to support you and get you training so you can use these tools. But check these out. Arslan, yes, the tool expresses the process, so we should start with the process. If we can't understand it generically without talking about a system, we need to take more time to understand what it is. And just keep talking to folks about Confluence. It's easy to think that we're the only one dealing with this particular problem or we don't know how to do it, but I guarantee you there are other people out there in the same exact spot. We've seen some great chat going back and forth here. About things like document debt, etc. So there's many people who are in the same position. It's just a matter of finding them. So start asking around, jump into Discord, go on a community, ask people at work. That's about all I've got for now. I'll do one more poll. Just what did you think of the session today? And the scale is not really a scale. It's just curious for some high-level feedback. And a quick reminder, please hit the thumbs up wherever it was. That helps other people find it. Check out the links you see on the screen. That will help. And if you're really feeling up for it, I'm always looking for feedback on how I can get better. So I'll drop a quick Google form there. But I do want to thank you all. You just spent an hour learning how to declutter Confluence, which is not something I ever thought I would be running a training on, and I'd have a lot of people join. This just goes to a Google form. It can be anonymous. Quick question from MP. I'll see if I can answer this. A way to see why someone does not edit access. You can do this in cloud. I don't know how to do this in data center, MP. There is an inspect permissions tool in cloud where you can type in a name and the piece of content, and it will tell you why they can't see or edit it. They don't have a license, they don't have view access, etc. Kelvin, you're very welcome, my friend. I'm glad you joined. All right, folks, I'll leave this open for just another moment. So far, we're split. Half of you thought it was great, half of you thought it was awesome. I don't know which one's better, but thank you all for letting me know. Let me know what else you want to learn about, too. I enjoy ones like this that aren't just about the buttons, but how do we use the buttons and why. And I hope to see you in another session sometime soon. So have a great day, evening, morning, wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next training.